For those of you that have been watching all day, what an incredible experience it is sitting in the back of that room while one person gets voted off and another leaves, and then it's just you. There's not a more terrifying position to be in than in that room by yourself. We started with 11, and then it's just you. Today I'm here to talk about two of my passions, the sport of football and the investment in teamwork. Those two things to you may be desperately unique, but to me, it represents a moment in my life where teamwork simply made sense. It was a 4-second moment where it all came together. It's something that I go back to on an endless number of times when I need grounding. It's something that inspires me in the way I live my life, the way I lead others, and most importantly, the way I live. My conversation today is about 3rd and 2. That is the down and distance when it all made sense to me. The challenge that I give you today is if you go home this evening and you look at TED and you search teamwork, how many videos do you think comes up? 1. If we believe in changing the world, if we believe in progress and development, collaboration, how can we not focus on teamwork? Is the way that we evaluate success and failure today part of the fundamental problem in our failures to progress at the rate that we would like to? If you took the dictionary off the shelf right now, teamwork would be defined as the cooperative work done by a team, the ability to work efficiently as a team. Make sense? How many times have you sat through sessions about SWOT, return on investment, corporate change management, or my favorite, corporate cash flow projections? For the young leaders in the room, you will. For the rest of us, how many of those have you led, or how many of those have you been forced to sit through? When was the last time your boss walked into a room and said, "Tell me about teamwork, and tell me truthfully, authentically, and with transparency what you think about her, and don't lie"? Could you imagine the chaos and anarchy that would be set forward in that room? Who needs UFC? We would have it in a boardroom. But why? Are the tools that we have today to evaluate success and failure actually part of our problem? Do we need to think differently about the softer elements of success and failure to change our ability to progress? I work on an island. Every day I drive across a bridge to get there. Every time I have the opportunity to speak to our team, I open with the exact same quotation. The day you drive across that bridge and you don't like coming here, don't. Go and get a job somewhere else. And I say that in one of the most difficult labor environments in all of North America. The day that you don't like coming to work, don't. Go get a job somewhere else, because I'm going to push you too hard. I'm going to expect too much dedication, too much loyalty, and too much of you that if you don't like being here, you shouldn't. I say that every single time I have the opportunity to address our team. There was a great football leader, Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi, for those of you that don't know, was the legendary coach of the Green Bay Packers. The Super Bowl trophy is actually named after him. And when he was asked about teamwork, his definition was individual commitment to a group effort. That is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, and a civilization work. So what is the difference between what old Vincey said and Webster? Can you see it? Does something stand out to you? One word: commitment.
On leftwich again on 2nd and 10, seam route. He's got Darius Watts inside the 35 and all the way down to the Akron 33-yard line.
Now look at this. The offensive linemen are carrying them down. I think this is the first. I have not seen that.
Never. That's amazing.
Help your homeboys out. And Darius Watts, what do we say? Keep them short. No big plays. Well, D. Watts comes back and makes up for that touchdown he didn't get in the end zone.
An absolute Herculean effort from Byron.
Byron Leftwich is the quarterback of Marshall University. At that time in the game, they were losing 34-20 against Akron University. The reason that he didn't run to the line of scrimmage, the reason that he was carried by two of his teammates wasn't because he was thirsty, hungry, or lazy. It was because he had a broken left tibia and he could not walk. In that game, two of his offensive linemen put him on his shoulder and ran him to the next play in the line of scrimmage so that he can continue to participate. We can debate whether philosophically that's right or wrong, but I challenge you to think this. When is the last time at a Monday morning safety meeting that somebody was carried in by two of their coworkers simply because they had to be there? When was the last time at a corporate branding exercise that your director of marketing threw your graphic designer on their shoulder and ran them into that meeting because they simply needed to be there? Why does that happen in the sport of football and we can't have that level of commitment in our daily lives? Do we evaluate success appropriately? At the time that this video was shot, the score was 34-20. When the game came to an end, the score was 34-20. If you read the papers on Sunday afternoon, nothing that Byron Leftwich did changed the outcome of that game. Yet when Vince Lombardi came up with his quote on teamwork, I guarantee he was foreshadowing this very moment in time. If we evaluated the success of that team, of Byron Leftwich and his teammates, they would have failed. Using the mechanisms by which we evaluate success and failure, they would have been losers. But those are the type of losers that every single one of us would want on our team, right? So I challenge you to think differently about how we evaluate success. When I played football, I played the position of right tackle. For those of you that don't know what a right tackle is, don't feel bad. Nobody does. Nobody really cares. You spend 75 plays a game pushing another man around or being pushed by them. After the game, the television never wants to talk to you. The radio doesn't know you exist. You never make it on the cover of the program. That year that I played, I was on page 21. When they do the athletic fundraising calendar, for some reason, nobody ever asks the right tackle to pose in it. Because I thought I'd look good in a towel. Essentially, if you compared it to the business world, you're the janitor to the football team. You don't need to iron your clothes because within 2 minutes of going to work, you're dirty again. But one of the best lessons in life I learned from a janitor, his name was Robert Durlink, my very first leadership job. Bobby Durlink used to come by my office every single night at 8:30, and he'd be on a floor scrubber, shaking this thing. And sweat would be pouring off him, his shirt would be undone, his hair would be all over the place. And I watched him night after night and would say, Bobby, calm down. One night as an inspired young leader, I decided I'm going to go do something inspirational. And I walk out to him and I said, Bobby. He goes, yes, Mr. Reid. The last thing we need is you having a heart attack and me ending up on the front page of the paper giving you mouth to mouth. So tone it down. He didn't laugh. He didn't crack a smile. He looked at me and he said, Mr. Reid. I said, it's Tim. He said, Mr. Reid. I said, it's Tim. He said, Mr. Reid, I never felt guilty about cashing my paycheck. There was a janitor that was committed to do his job to the best of his abilities. And you know what? As long as he did his job to the best of his abilities, we had a chance to be successful. And there was not a day that we didn't have the cleanest floors in that entire community. There wasn't a day that I wasn't proud to have a janitor like him on our team. How do you leave work every day without any guilt about cashing your paycheck? How do you leave with a sense of commitment that is authentic, that is transparent, and frankly, that is real? Well, we talk to people like Bobby Durlink. 2003, Antigonish, Nova Scotia. For those of you that don't know where Antigonish, Nova Scotia is, you probably blinked on the highway. It has one stoplight. St. Mary's University is coming to town. It's homecoming weekend. St. Mary's is ranked #1 in the country. They're in the heart of their dynasty years, and I played for St. Francis Xavier University. We were never ranked #1 in the country, and we sure as heck didn't have any dynasty years. I'm a 295-pound young man sitting in a gauntlet in tight blue pants, brilliant blue uniform with a big white X on my helmet, and I'm waiting for that guy to call my name. He calls my name, and I run out of there. The only just as you would expect from a sophomore football player, full of testosterone, vigor, and stupidity. I get my high fives all the way out this gauntlet. I get to the end of it, and I turn around. And when I turn around, I see 8,000 people, which was about 7,999 more than we get out to the average game. And my sense of arrogance immediately turns to a sense of self-preservation and fear. I am praying that we don't lose this game by 50 because I ain't ever seen that many people watching me play football before. And as I'm standing at the end of this tunnel, I look to my right and I look to my left, and there's 11 other guys that are right there with me. They're right there with me, equally committed, equally prepared to do anything possible to give us a chance to be successful. That's the amazing thing about football. You win and you lose as a team. That chance came late in the fourth quarter. 2 minutes and 11 seconds left in the game. We're winning 13-11. We're beating the number one team in the country. We should never be beating the number one team in the country. The down and distance is third down with 2 yards to go. For those of you that don't know what that means, Russell will help you Google it. It means that you have one play. If we get a first down, we win that game. If we don't, we lose that game. 8,000 people are in the stands chanting for us to win, and we have one play. That is the amazing thing about football, is you can't hide from reality. You win or you lose, period. There's a lot that happens in one simple football play. The reason that I believe football is so important is because in the last Super Bowl, 111 million people tuned in. The week before, President Obama delivered a State of the Nation address, and 38 million people tuned in. Isn't that a statement? So why does 111 million people tune into a football game? More importantly, the ball in that football game moved for 11 minutes. The average football play was 4 seconds. So for 4 seconds of reality, do we have the ability in the sport of football to package the best and worst of humanity in such a simplistic form that we can understand it? I believe we do. It's late in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes and 11 seconds in the game. 13-11 in the score. We're beating the number one team in the country. The only thing missing from that very moment was a Rudy chant and a Disney logo. We go into the huddle. The quarterback comes in the huddle. He goes, ready, everybody up. At that point, he's the chief operating officer. He's the CEO. He's the director of finance, whatever the boss's name is. Nobody talks because you're not allowed to talk. He says, 44 lead on 2, 44 lead on 2, ready, break. We start the jog from the huddle to the line of scrimmage, which is 5 yards. I repeat, 44 lead on 2, 44 lead on 2. I'm repeating it not because I'm afraid I'm going to forget, but I'm desperately hoping that play will change. The reason that I'm hoping, because I can picture the playbook and it says one thing: run right behind the right tackle. So I get to the line of scrimmage. I sit my feet, and I remember my Pee Wee coach telling me a story. He said, everything in life, Tim, starts with a good base. Everything in football starts with a good foundation. As I take my deep breath, I get in my stance, I look over and I find the guy that I'm going to block, and every fiber of my being is going to move that man by 2 yards. Whatever it takes, I will move that man by 2 yards. As I take a deep breath, it strikes me. It's not the CEO that matters. It's not the CFO that matters. It's not the quarterback that matters. It's the right tackle. When the game is on the line, it's the janitor that matters the most. When you win or you lose, you don't do it from the top, but rather you do it from the bottom because they're the ones that matter. Great leaders don't build great teams, but rather great teams build great leaders. When the game is on the line, it's the janitor that matters. So when was the last time you asked your janitors their opinion? When was the last time you called a meeting and you brought your janitors into a room and said, how can we do this better? Let me ask you this question. How many of us have janitors that take care of our buildings where we work? Do you know their names? If you don't, you should. If you do, know something about them. Because when the game is on the line, when it's win or lose, it's the janitors that matter. And in 4 seconds in a football game, in one deep breath, I recognize that leadership is not built from the top down, but a commitment to success is built from the bottom up. We as leaders merely inspire the opportunity for success. And if we cannot inspire those that deliver success, we will simply lose the game. So when was the last time you walked into a boardroom and somebody said, let's talk about teamwork? Close your books. No more SWOT. No more ROI. Let's talk about how we are and our team. In the 1950s, there was a hotel in San Diego. The hotel was the El Cortez Hotel. It needed to close because it needed to put in an additional elevator shaft. There was a bellboy that worked in that hotel. The bellboy's wife was 6 months pregnant. The construction was going to take 5 months. He knew that if he didn't have this job, he wouldn't be able to feed his wife and his new child. The owner of the hotel is walking through the lobby. Bellboy comes over to him and says, sir, can I have a minute? He says, sure. Do we have to shut down the hotel? He says, we can't open the hotel if we don't have an elevator. He said, can't we build the elevator on the outside of the building? One of the greatest developments of that decade architecturally was the glass elevator on the outside of a building. And it came because a bellboy wanted to feed his wife and his kids, and a leader took the time to listen. If you don't believe my theory, pack up your family, drive across the country, and tell me how many times your wife walks out of a washroom and says those bathrooms were filthy. If you don't believe a janitor matters, you're wrong. So as TEDers, I challenge you to think differently about our responsibility to teamwork, to think differently about success and failure. As TEDers, I challenge you to do one thing on Monday morning. Walk in and say hello to your janitors. Thank you so much.